channel, it's Big John. Welcome to It's All in the Game. So today I'm going to give a little commentary and share a few thoughts on this whole situation with George Floyd in Minneapolis. Alright, so just briefly, for those of you who don't know, George Floyd is a gentleman of color, who was killed in an interaction with law enforcement in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Apparently the police had a call that there was a forgery in progress. Now, I'm not exactly sure what a forgery in progress looks like, being someone who went to prison for forgery. Anyway, that's what they were responding to. They found Mr. Floyd sitting by his truck. They said they tried to detain him. He resisted, and they had to use force, resulting in his death. Now, there's been extensive video footage of the interaction. There's video of him immediately when they're trying to get him out of the car. It looks like they're cuffing him right at that point. He's not resisting at all. And then there's video of him once he's on the ground, and there's some other shots of him in between. But I never see any resistance from the man in any of that footage. But that's neither here nor there. Even if they did need to use, even if the officers did need to use force to restrain him, they went way beyond what was necessary to restrain him, because he was already in cuffs. Once they had him on the ground, this officer had his knee on the man's neck and kept it there the whole time. Mr. Floyd is saying, "I can't breathe, my neck hurts, my whole body hurts, I can't breathe." There are many spectators saying, "Look, you're killing this guy, you have to get off this guy." There was somebody who was there saying they were a first responder, saying, "Look, what you're doing right now is killing this man, you have to get off this man." Saying this over and over and over, and I mean, it's pretty horrible. It's a horrible, horrible video to watch. It's awful, it's reprehensible, and this is something that we're seeing more and more of. This is the third video I've made in as many weeks about a black guy that was killed by law enforcement, or former law enforcement, in the case of Ahmaud Arbery. And you know, the thing about this is, it's not as though this is like there's an increase in, you know, black people being killed by law enforcement. It's just that now there's the ability to record it, so there's an increase in documentation of these things. So more and more people are becoming aware of it. What I want to respond to here, though, is the city's response to this whole situation, the city of Minneapolis' response. All right, so initially, the first response that they took was to fire the 4 officers that were on the scene that day, which is absolutely appropriate, and that's, you know, really a pretty strong response. Usually, you know, police have strong unions. Usually they're put on administrative leave or desk duty or some bullshit, not fired outright. So firing them outright, that was, you know, it's a pretty strong response, and that's what needed to happen. Okay, so I want to make this clear. The city does this, and they're saying, we fired these 4 men because what they did in the city's name was wrong, and it can't be stood for, so they can no longer work for the city. We're firing them. What they did was wrong. That's what the city's saying by firing them. But then what they did beyond that, I just can't, you know, reconcile. There's people out there protesting last night saying that they believe it's wrong too, which the city apparently believes too, because they fired these officers. So there's people out there, you know, exercising their constitutional right to assembly and free speech and whatnot. They're out there protesting, saying this is fucked up. This is really fucked up. This has to stop. And the police respond with tear gas and percussion grenades and rubber bullets. If the city is acknowledging that this is wrong, this is a terrible thing that happened, they can't, you know, attack people who are out there saying this is wrong. Those people weren't out there burning down buildings. They weren't out there doing anything other than exercising their right to protest, exercising their right to free speech, and they come at them in riot gear. It's just so awful. These are the people that are protecting us today. This argument that, you know, by and large police are good, it's just a few bad apples, that argument doesn't stand up. Because if there are a few bad apples, it should be the responsibility of the good apples to get those bad apples the fuck out, alright? I would bet my fucking life, I would bet my life, that in this situation, there's one dude there that has his knee on this man's neck, and 3 other guys that are keeping the spectators away, back in their brother cops' play. I would bet my life that you put any other cop in the city of Minneapolis in those 3 other dudes' position, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to back their brother cops' play, and they're going to keep those civilians at bay while their brother is doing his job, because that's what cops do. They back each other up and they back each other's play. It's something that's been going on since the beginning of time. If there are bad cops doing bad shit, the so-called good cops should be responding to that. If those cops would have been good cops, they would have been grabbing this dude and pulling him off of George Floyd. And another thing I'd like to bring up too, just consider this, the way that today's system works. There was a bunch of spectators, there was at least a couple people filming this incident. You can hear their outrage. Now, if one of those people had taken the initiative and, say, tackled that cop or jumped and pulled that cop off of Mr. Floyd and saved his life, a few things would have happened. First, Mr. Floyd would be alive, so that would be a net gain, right? Hopefully. Maybe if they got there in time. But what would have happened beyond that? First of all, none of us would have probably heard about this, probably. Second, the person who did that would have, at the very least, been arrested, probably got the shit kicked out of them, and possibly ended up dead themselves. That is not the way that the police should act. They are there, supposedly, they are there to protect us, to keep the community safe, to maintain law and order. They are not there to create chaos and divisiveness and mistrust, all right? And that's exactly what they're doing. If somebody is watching one human being kill another human being, that person should never feel like they cannot intervene and stop that situation. But in this situation, if people had intervened, you better believe that those people would have been persecuted, those people would have been charged, and that's bullshit. There has to be a better system than what there is today, because this is happening all over the country. You better believe it. I mean, we're seeing this now more and more often, these kind of incidents recorded on video. For every one we see, there's another, 10 or 20 or 100 that we don't. And this has been happening for years, for decades. But this is not something that we should be cool with. Obviously, lots of people are standing up and saying this is bullshit, but it shouldn't just take this, these kind of incidents, these kind of horrible things that we have to see as a society. We have to watch a man die at some other evil human being's hand, and everybody stands up and say this is bullshit. Everybody should be standing up and saying this is bullshit anyway, way before this happens, way after this happens. This has to stop. This kind of power, this kind of authority should not just be given to anybody with a high school diploma that has the ability to fill out an application. Your average police is not prepared for the psychological dynamic that they are going to encounter on a day-to-day basis. We need to stand up and do something about it. I don't know what that something is, but this has to stop. This cannot keep going on, y'all. Love to hear your feedback. Y'all take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. Go to the person you love, give them a hug. Be grateful that they're alive today. All right, y'all be cool. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to keep making this content, keep talking about this shit, trying to keep putting this out there in the public consciousness. All right? Stay cool, y'all. Stay woke. Big John told you so. It's all in the game.